Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com with you for another episode of the Steelers Preview Podcast. Joining me as always on these Thursday afternoon podcasts when we are live, Bryan Anthony Davis, our podcast producer. What's going on, Bryan?
Hey, I am so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and not have to talk about the Browns and the Ravens playing this weekend. So I'm good about that. Even though the Steelers aren't playing, I subscribe to the thing. Call me petty, but misery loves company.
That's true. Dave Schofield, other co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. What's going on, Dave?
Hey, not much. Just looking forward to having a good, fun time hanging out with my pals in the live chat and talking anything we can about Steelers.
Absolutely. I've said this on multiple shows, my Let's Ride podcast. Folks, if you think this offseason is going to be boring for the Steelers, you haven't been paying attention. There's so much that can happen with the Pittsburgh Steelers when you think about the salary cap, and we're not sure what's going to happen there, who they're going to cut, who they're going to sign in the NFL draft. We're going to have it all for you, not only here on our audio platform, but also on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. So make sure you check out that website. It's worth it. Trust me, it is worth it. Guys, the news. We always start with the news. Every Thursday, we start with the news. And boy, was there some news today. Welcome to the Dwayne Haskins fan club, also known as the Steelers Preview Podcast. I'm just joking. My gosh, such a polarizing character. This guy is, I talked about this on my Let's Ride podcast. It'll be up Friday morning. And I said, if you're someone that was clamoring for Jameis Winston last offseason, and you're moaning and groaning about them signing Dwayne Haskins, you're basically talking out of both sides of your mouth, in my opinion. The only difference is that Jameis Winston has more starting experience. But Dwayne Haskins is inconsistent. He has off-field issues. Jameis Winston was inconsistent, off-field issues. If you didn't like either of them, then you're fine. But so many people on social media, especially Twitter, it was so hot and cold. I actually put a poll out there and said, were you happy with them signing Dwayne Haskins? I want to say I'll check the actual results. They were either yes or meh, don't care. So, guys, I want to know what you think. Bryan, when they signed Dwayne Haskins, your thoughts were what?
Absolutely loved it for two reasons. One, everybody was going to be up in arms, going crazy. My buddies were like, are they senile at the Steelers front office? What's going on? I'm like, guys, this is nothing but giving a chance to a player to see what he's got. He's a futures. When you sign a futures guy, you're not wrapping up much into him. It's not like you gave him a 5-year deal. It's a 1-year deal. He might not even see September. So you see what he's got. If he has something, if there was just some kind of disconnect with Ron Rivera, if there was some kind of disconnect in Washington, if the strip bars were so good in the district that he was just so distracted, maybe a change is good. But you have nothing to lose here. What's going to happen? If it doesn't work out, he's not going to infect your locker room. You say goodbye, and that's it. If it does work out, he's your number 3 quarterback.
Yeah, that's a good point. Dave, what are your thoughts on Dwayne Haskins?
Do I have to talk about Dwayne Haskins right now? Because I'm kind of hurt because apparently Muhammad wants you to fire me. I don't know what that was all about. He wants to talk about me being the former editor. Sorry about that. Now I got to get back here. People that think that this has anything to do with Ben Roethlisberger or Mason Rudolph, you're getting your sight set or your hopes set on the wrong thing. You don't bring in a guy for a futures contract where that's your plan. You can bring in a guy with a futures contract and he can work out far beyond what you ever expected. But you don't sign someone to a futures contract who's coming in to push your Hall of Fame quarterback out or to put the writing on the wall for the guy that was the backup this past year. That's not what this was about. I don't think people really understand that's, at least that's the impression that I got. And if he does work out to that level, bonus, but it's not a big deal. It's a very extremely wise move to have basically no risk and only reward.
Yeah, there's a ton of upside in this. People were saying, oh, he's toxic. He's going to mess with the locker room. And I said, if this young man is going to be that entitled, you could guess the entitlement he would have had in Washington as being a first-round draft pick, coming in expecting to be the guy. You walk around a little cocky. Well, you just got cut in the middle of a season. Nobody wanted you. No one picked you up off waivers. You went and spoke with Carolina. You left without a contract. Now you go to Pittsburgh. Nobody wants you. If you walk into that locker room and you think that your stuff doesn't smell, then he deserves to get just, hey, thanks, we'll see you. We don't need you here if that's the case. So people that are talking about his locker room issues, I don't think that's going to be an issue in Pittsburgh, not because it's the Steelers, because you really do get the feeling this is his last chance. When you do stuff like he did in DC and, the COVID protocols, just blatantly disregarding it, it's not a good look. Not a good look at all. But guys, if you were to put him in a position, so meaning let's say he is good enough to make the team, do you think he's competing for Mason Rudolph's jobs? I personally do not. I think that if he's anything, he's QB3, and they're probably going to bring in another quarterback. They typically like to have 4 arms in the offseason at quarterback, and with Joshua Dobbs being an unrestricted free agent, we're not sure what he's going to do. Bryan, where do you see Dwayne Haskins fitting into this team?
Really, no, I don't really see him any higher than 3rd. However, it makes me wonder just a wee little bit that are they planning on cutting ties with Ben? No. But
not based on this move.
No.
Yeah. But I bring that up that he could be a number 2 in a lot. I mean, he could definitely be a number 2. If he earns that job, it's great. Mason Rudolph has nothing to worry about. This is another arm. He could be your number 4 guy. He's replacing Duck Hodges right now. And if you're not bringing back Josh Dobbs, you might have nothing to lose by, signing Josh Dobbs for a cheap 1-year deal. But that's just extra. I mean, there's really no reason to do that. This guy fills in as a number 3, and that's what you have. If not, you're going to pull some guy that is, if there is a preseason, I'm hoping there is, you're going to pull some guy in on May 1st and give him an opportunity, give him the number 8 or something, or the number 8, like an obscure number, let him go ahead and try out for the team. And if something happens that he impresses, then he's your number 3 guy.
Dave, thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying to someone this evening, that this is your Duck Hodges replacement. Now, does it mean that he's stuck there? No. Can he come out and completely overwhelm and overperform? Am I saying he has no chance to take the number 2 spot or anything like that? I'm definitely not saying that. I'm not holding a player back like that, because why else would you sign them unless you're thinking maybe you catch lightning in a bottle? So, but you're saying, the Steelers are going to have another camp. They had 5 quarterbacks going in the offseason. Remember who the 5th one was?
Paxton Lynch.
JT.
Who was that? Who was that, Bryan?
Wasn't it JT Barrett?
Yeah.
Did you count Paxton Lynch?
Because did they have 6? I can't even remember that. Oh, no.
Well,
that's right.
Dobbs
They didn't have Dobbs. They didn't have Dobbs.
Dobbs
Yeah, they had 5. So that was the problem. I'm like, yeah, wait a second. Why are you both right? But no, you were both right. I was thinking of JT Barrett, that was even still someone else they had. So what I find the most interesting about this signing is that it was a 1-year futures contract. It wasn't like he came in needing to have this, he wanting a 3-year deal with this amount and blah, blah, blah. That's not how it worked. And I think he knew. I'm kind of glad that he went somewhere else first to realize that they probably weren't going to offer him. If no one's offering him anything other than this, then you just need to go where you have the opportunity. So, I mean, and now, did you guys see the report? I don't know. I think it might have been Field Yates that put this out there. I can't remember, or no, it might, or some other national reporter, that after this year, he would become a restricted free agent.
Hmm.
And as a restricted free agent, you could offer him the much cheaper original round tender rather than the first round tender. And then because his original round is round 1. And then that would be the compensation and stuff. It would be less if they sign with you, and if someone else signs him off because he's doing so great, you would get a first round pick in return. So those are just the little tiny things that are just added bonus. And who knows? Maybe it's a JT Barrett situation, and he doesn't even make it through the first week of camp. Yeah. No harm, no foul.
Exactly. Felicia gives us $5. Fan of the show. She says Dwayne Haskins is what you get when you order a Deshaun Watson jersey on Wish. She said to David means killing myself laughing. It's an okay signing. All right.
I didn't know what that meant on Tuesday night. I guess I'm old. Brian, did you know what that meant? Did you know that KMSL, that's what that meant?
I didn't know that.
Oh, good. Because
not at all. No,
Jeff's the young buck, and I got roasted for not knowing that. So
real quick, the Twitter poll that I put out there, just shy of 1,000 votes. I did this an hour ago, so this was before we went live. 44% say yes, they like the signing. 41% say meh, who cares, and then 15% were no. So that's kind of where Steeler Nation is right now if you're trying to gauge the fan base, and I think that's pretty accurate. But there was more news than just Dwayne Haskins. The Steelers offensive coordinator, last time we talked, last Thursday, we assumed that, Randy Fichtner was just fired. We were talking about who was going to be the guy. That weekend, reports were that Matt Canada was the guy, and now all of a sudden it was like, well, let's pump the brakes there a little bit. They still have to do other interviews with other candidates. Some of those candidates have already started to come out today, Thursday. Hugh Jackson, former Cleveland Browns head coach, coordinator with the Bengals and the Raiders, and he even worked with the Ravens at a few years, I think. He interviewed with the Steelers for the offensive coordinator position. And then most recently, right before we went on the air, we put this on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. The Steelers have put in a request for Chargers quarterback coach Pep Hamilton. And he's been all over the place as well, worked with Andrew Luck in Indianapolis, obviously Justin Herbert out there in LA with the Chargers. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. And then we can tie this into the fact that there was also a report that the Steelers want to hire an offensive line coach before they hire a coordinator. I'm not sure if that's the normal. We talked about that last week, I think. Is this normal? Which order do you go in? And that would be none other than Hank Fraley, who was the running back. Was he offensive line coach in Detroit, Dave?
Yes. No, that's who they interviewed. Not that they.
Yes. They did not hire him, but that's who they interviewed. So I
want to. People were like, "Oh, Detroit's running game wasn't very much more than the Steelers," but he was. What he did this year, because remember, Detroit's not had a running game for ever. They love him there, so there's someone that they want to keep around. And was thinking they were finally maybe going to start turning a corner. So,
well, the funny thing is that there's even another Detroit tie here with Ike Hilliard, the wide receivers coach for the Steelers. He got an interview for the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator position. You have to wonder if they don't go with him, do the Steelers give him a shot at their offensive coordinator opening? I don't know. Brian, what do you make of all this stuff? I know that's a lot that we're throwing out there, but what do you make of all this?
A lot of stuff to talk about here. First of all, Hugh Jackson, great. I'm glad you said that because I thought it was Hugh Jackman. I thought they were reaching out to Wolverine / P.T. Barnum and trying to give him a job. Here's the thing. Hugh Jackson, everybody right away reacted like, no, he was terrible as a head coach. Remember what we talked about last week. Norv Turner, not a great head coach. Awesome all-time coordinator. Same with Wade Phillips, awesome defensive coordinator of all time. You could go with a bunch of names. We could even talk about Mike Munchak. We could talk about these guys. Hugh Jackson was a very good offensive coordinator. I still think that they're looking at Matt Canada, but they're looking through all the options. But you throw in the name Pep Hamilton, and right away, the hairs on my arms, they start standing up. I'm like, ooh, because that guy is a good offensive mind. I really like him. I know David Shaw hired him back in 2011 for one more year of Andrew Luck. I know he worked with Andrew Luck in way back when. And I got to tell you, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think he worked with Andrew Luck with Indy as well. But he's very good. Look what he did this year with a guy that nobody was really excited about of the first round quarterbacks. Everybody was talking about Joey Burrow and Tua, but Justin Herbert was absolutely amazing. He won he's probably going to win your Offensive Rookie of the Year award, and he was really good. So Pep Hamilton, that's a guy to look at that came out of the woodwork. I love the fact that they're looking at that guy too. I think they're opening up options. They're being very smart about it. And if it ends up being Matt Canada and that's the guy they want all along, I'm cool with it. Now let's talk about Hank Fraley really quick. One of my friends right away, they said, wait a second, Detroit had a bad offensive line. Oh no, we can't have him. I don't know what to think. I don't know if I like this idea. I'm like, first of all, there's not many offensive line coaches that you guys know the names of. I follow football a lot. I don't pay – maybe Bill Callahan, sure. But I don't really pay attention – and Mike Munchak. But I don't know many offensive line coaches. I just don't. But Fraley has a great Pittsburgh connection. Where did he go to college, guys? Do you remember?
Robert Morris.
Absolutely. And so he came to Pittsburgh out of camp. He was an undrafted free agent. He came in. He looked pretty good. They ended up moving on from him. Next thing you know, he's in Philly a long time. He's in Cleveland a long time. He is a perfect example of a grinder, a guy that had to scratch and claw to get in this league and then stayed for a long, long time. He's that undrafted guy on the line that as things went along, he was the wily veteran that everybody loved, and he stuck around. He was a really good player in the NFL, and now we're hearing reports that everybody loves him, and he's that sought-after guy. Remember, you don't have to be a superstar to be a good coordinator or a good coach. You need to be just a guy that has had to play in the dirt and had to get his shoulder pads just mangled and work through. And that's what he did. This guy studies the game. He was a great center. I would love to see a guy like Fraley. I don't know what else is out there because I don't scout offensive line coaches, but they're doing due diligence. I love what they're doing right now.
Dave, you wrote that article. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about Fraley. Now this was 20 years ago, because this was in 2000, right? Is he not a guy? Is he not the typical? He didn't make the 53-man roster, but he got claimed off waivers. So he most likely was going to be a guy that they wanted for the practice squad, even though practice squads were smaller back then. But because he was doing well with the Steelers in preseason, he got picked up. So it's not that the Steelers completely rejected him. He just didn't make their 53-man roster.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And he ended up having a really good career. So is he the right fit? I don't know enough about him as a coach. I'm not. That's why a lot of these things, I'm like, I'm going to trust the Steelers to do the right thing. Can I bring up another name?
Sure.
Because I got to give props to Thaddeus, because he had actually asked me about this before. He's like, do you think the Steelers would consider maybe Ike Hilliard as an offensive coordinator? And I'm like, I don't know that that's really at this point of his career in his realm of expertise or whatnot. I said, I don't know that he is. Is he comfortable calling plays, things like that? Then what's the other report we get today? That he is supposedly interviewing. Now I can't remember which team he's interviewing with.
Detroit.
Yeah, for their coordinator position. Yeah. So it's a Detroit swap, I guess, is what they're trying to do. So my question is, he's on your staff. Why not at least do the interview, if nothing else, to give him experience through that process? Do you think the Steelers maybe put Hilliard's name in there for the OC?
Shoot, I think they'd be smart if they did, just like you said, to give him experience, or to I don't think it wouldn't do any hurt. It wouldn't hurt anybody. I don't think there's a deadline that they're trying to get things done by. Especially, am I correct if I'm wrong, Dave or Brian, that I heard that the NFL was allowing coaches that are still in season, so we're talking one of the 4 teams remaining, that they actually can interview via Zoom or Skype, whatever they choose, during the season. I think because normally they would have to wait. I'm pretty sure that the NFL is allowing them to do that now.
Well,
Yes,
what they did was they allowed a window to where they did it early in the postseason, which I really think was the first week. Then they closed that window unless you had permission from the team. And I know the Chiefs gave permission for Eric Bieniemy to do another interview, I think on Monday. So because they don't want to hold him back or whatever, there are a lot more. They haven't said no, but there was definitely a window where they had to allow it no matter what.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. So that's some of the news. Did I miss anything, Dave? There's been some news.
There's just so much. I mean, yeah, because you mentioned the Pep Hamilton thing. He was an XFL coach, right?
Yeah, the DC
Defenders.
Team.
Yeah,
the Defenders. What a name.
Defenders.
Okay. All right. So I mean that's the news that's happened recently. We'll put it that way. Now let's get to the actual headline of this podcast, the title of this show, which is the sky falling in Pittsburgh? Because I have to be honest with you. If you follow this team and especially the fan base, we have a unique circumstance here that if you do a live show on YouTube, you see the live chat, you can really get a feel for what fans are thinking about certain topics. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, you really do see the comments that are made. And man alive, it's just been really negative. It's been really negative. I get it. Losing 5 of their last 6 games, losing to the Browns in the wild card game, the way that you lost, it was a carbon copy of 2017. Ben throws 4 picks. I don't care if he throws for 500. I don't care if he connects for, over 45 passes. It was bad. It was really bad. The defense looked like garbage. Guys, let's take a few minutes here and talk some fans off the ledge. Give us some positive takes on why the sky, well, unless you believe that the sky is falling, maybe you do, but if you don't, tell fans why they shouldn't be overly concerned heading into 2021. Go ahead, Bryan.
Well, first of all, I know I say this all the time, but the Steelers thrive when there's a chip on their shoulder. And everybody's putting a chip on their shoulder right now. The national media thinks they're garbage. They saw what happened in December and beyond. And, the fans felt that way too. There was a lot of people thinking, I mean, I was in this boat too, that if they, even during the Cleveland game, if they pull this out, are they just going to be lambs to the slaughter for Buffalo? Are they going far with this offense? So when we asked for a scapegoat, the ultimate scapegoat was scheme. And that's what the number one thing is. Number 2 was lack of a running game / offensive run blocking. That was number 2. So what did they do? They went ahead and they took care of it. They're going out, they're changing the scheme. They're getting a new offensive line coach. There's going to be changes on that offensive line, probably not as extreme as you think, but there's going to be new faces. But a lot of those faces are in the organization. And that's probably going to be something they're going to be looking at. So everyone else that is on the outside looking in, all they look at is on the surface. If you're in the live chat right now, that means that you follow this team more than the average fan. You are super fans if you're in the live chat, because the Steelers aren't playing this week, but there's almost 300 right now eyes looking at us right now, and they want to hear about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they want to know about it, which means you know a lot about this team. So if you look deep down, you're looking deeper than more than anybody else. You also, a lot of us fans that are around right now in February, in January with no playoffs, in February and June, you have X-ray vision when it comes to the Steelers, and you can see more that's going on. And you know the heart of the guys on the field and in that locker room. And if you ask any of these guys, so I mean, you had a bad end of the season, you guys are going to suck, aren't you? They'll knock you out because they don't believe that deep down in their hearts. The sky's not falling for these guys. So they're addressing what they need to do, and they're going forward. And the salary cap's a really interesting thing too, because if the salary cap gets lowered, it's not just being lowered for the Steelers. So a lot of these guys that you're going to lose due to free agency, if they can't get jobs, Dave said it the other day, they might retire or they might take a minimum deal. I think you said that, Dave. But I mean,
Or
they're going to have to
deal,
pay
yeah.
less to stick around. So you're going to get some changes here, but the Steelers could roll with change on this because remember that 11-5 season, that 12-4 season that they had last year, Detroit, they'd kill for it. Houston Texans right now, they'd kill for it. These teams that are so much worse off, the Steelers aren't as bad off as we think they are. They're just not perfect. And they need to polish and make some moves. But who makes better moves than Kevin Colbert, than Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin involved in that process as well? They make great moves. So everyone else is going to think the sky is falling. That's fine. I love it. You guys think that this is the Pittsburgh Armageddons. All right. This is Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, Ben Affleck. Throw in Ben Affleck there. Throw in Bruce Willis and Liv Tyler, Armageddon, Michael Clark Duncan, all of those people. The guy that was the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator for Remember the Titans. You throw him in there. Great. It's Armageddon. The Steelers are falling apart. Will Patton, love that guy. So they're falling apart. But these guys don't think so. So let everybody think it. Then they come out and surprise. One of my favorite years was an 11-5 team that everybody had them going 4-12. Was Bill Cowher's first year. Those guys did not believe, nobody believed that they were a 4-12 team wearing black and gold. And I didn't really believe it deep down either. That team went to the playoffs. And that was a team that had to start over. Well, everyone thinks this team has to start over. Now, they've got to fix some things. But really, all teams have to fix some things. I like this direction.
All right. Well said. Isaac Aguilera gives us $5. He says, screw it. Bring back Todd Haley. He said, I'm just joking. But seriously, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Hugh Jackson a run-heavy coordinator? Guys, what are your thoughts on that in Hugh Jackson's style?
Does really...
he was the most effective
I
think he was the most effective in Cincinnati. And they had some decent running backs. I mean, it was a pretty balanced attack. I don't remember him being actually... labeled a run-heavy coordinator. I could be wrong. Bryan, do you have any memories of Hugh Jackson as a coordinator?
I just remember they had a pretty good offense when he was there, and he was there during the whole the days when you had a guy, Andy Dalton, running the show, and he wasn't that amazing, but he had some players. They had a good running game. They had Bernard and Jeremy Hill. They had some talent, but that talent kind of dried up when later on, when he was gone. I mean, I thought he was a good coordinator. So once again, I think he's that guy.
They had a really good tight end in Tyler Eifert that couldn't stay healthy either. Don't agree with that. Shield 91 gives us $5. Says, love my team, but they have a lot of making up to do. Don't trust anything until I see consistent improvements next season and coaching culture change. Look, I don't fault any fan for thinking that way. It's like you got to show me something, because we've all been duped before and we've fallen for the Mike Tomlinisms and we're going to unleash hell in December. And, the standard is the standard. That's it. Hey, every fan has every right to say it's all garbage. It's all garbage. You're doing nothing but blowing smoke. Everything that you're saying might be for your team, but for the fan base, why should we even listen? So Shield, you're not alone. I think you're absolutely right on. Dave, what are your thoughts on the sky falling in the city of Pittsburgh?
All right. Well, first of all, did Bryan leave out Owen Wilson, or was that thrown in there and I missed it? When he
no, I forgot about Owen Wilson. Yeah, I love it.
Okay, just making sure. It's interesting because it is a lot of what have the Steelers done now? Only winning one game in their last 6, all those things. You understand this, but the reason that there's a different, well, I would just say Steelers fans can have hope, is that this team is doing something. They aren't just rolling everything back into next year. All the same coach. I mean, last year they didn't move on from a single coach. They just added some, right? Oh, no, I mean, they had to add a wide receivers coach because of the passing of Coach Drake. But they didn't move on from anybody. So this year they're at least realizing, hey, let's get moving with this. Now, to move forward, Jeff and I kind of had a bit of a discussion with this. Everyone's like, "Oh, well,
don't get too far ahead. We're saving that for later."
I'll say that for okay. I'll save that for later. So, because I know that's coming, so I'll save it. So I don't know, Bryan. I think Bryan said enough for you, me, and about all the live chat. So I think we're all right.
I'm wired. Sorry.
I think I'll keep it short and sweet. I think that it's good. A lot of this is going to depend on the salary cap. I can't stress that enough. If the salary cap goes to 175, the floor that they set in the collective bargaining agreement, then you guys said it's not just the Steelers that are going to be screwed. They're going to be really screwed, but it's going to make a lot of decisions more cut and dry. They're not going to be able to keep certain players. They're not going to be able to re-sign certain players. So that's going to be huge. But then also, where do they value their money in free agency? Do they sign Cam Sutton or do they sign Mike Hilton? Do they not sign either? What about Matt Filer? There's so many decisions yet to be made. I would tell fans just to reserve judgment. Go ahead, Dave.
I thought of this when Bryan was talking. Then we did the live chat or the super chats, and then I remember what it was because Bryan said a thing about, and you brought it back up again about the salary cap and how a lot of teams are going to be dealing with it. There are some teams out there that they are ready to pounce because they have the cap space, but there's not a lot of them. If I was a free agent and not one of, let's say, the top 5 or 10 or whatever, I'm signing a 1-year deal because if you want to try to sign something long, I mean, unless they can really give you that big signing bonus and do multiple years to where it's not much of a hit this year, knowing that the salary cap should then get back to what it could be, you don't want to take something that's too less. You either do something where you make it very team friendly for them to start off with the low salary cap this year and make it a longer deal with a lot of upfront money that they can push off, or you say, I'm just taking the 1-year deal, and next year when the salary cap's better, you can give me more of that salary cap.
Good point.
Yep.
Good point. All right. This is a good stopping point. I think we're going to take a break. If you're watching live on Facebook or on YouTube, don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere. If you're listening on audio platform, head on over to part 2, where we're going to talk about some bold predictions for this offseason. We'll give you our picks for the AFC and NFC championship games, as well as some trivia. Stay tuned. Be right back. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to part 2 of the Steelers preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Joining me as always, Bryan Anthony Davis, our podcast producer, and Dave Schofield, the other co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. And we're talking all things Steelers. And you know what? I wanted to do this last week, but I said, let's hold off because we talked about the Nickelodeon game last week, and I was getting all fired up, and that was just a raucous discussion. I mean,
And
probably
you were wrong, Jeff. It
was award-winning stuff. Needless to say, this week I was like, let's push it back. Bold predictions. It's something we usually do. Every week we do a bold prediction for that upcoming game. But here's what I want to ask you guys: what is your bold prediction for the offseason? So think about it. What is a prediction that you're making? It can be a roster move. It could be an extension. It's got to be bold though. So don't say Dwayne Haskins is going to get cut. That's not bold. That wouldn't shock anyone. They'd be like, oh, Haskins got cut. That's not surprising. So Bryan, I'm going to let you go first. Are you ready?
No, but yes. I'm
Dave, do you have one? I'm going last.
I'm good. I got it.
For a reason.
I can go.
Yep. Go ahead.
So there's a lot of guys. There's 19 guys on that list right now as unrestricted free agents. I know there's 2 more that you're looking at as well. But as always, if I'm going to do a bold prediction, I'm going to do a bold prediction with Bougie. So Bougie Smith-Schuster, his owner, Juju, will be one of the guys that I'm talking about here. So you've got 3 big names. You've got other big names. But you've got 3 names that you're looking at keeping. Bud Dupree, which no one thinks anybody's going to keep Bud Dupree. We're looking at Juju, and we're looking at, let's throw in James Conner on that list too. Now, I'll throw in a 4th. I'm going to throw in another guy that everybody's talking about, Mike Hilton. Of those 4, one of those guys, at least, maybe 2, but one guy is definitely going to be back with a pretty good deal.
Who is it?
Oh, no, I was going to say one of those guys. But actually, you know what? I actually think that you will see Juju back in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform next year.
Oh, okay. All right. I'd say that's pretty bold. Real quick before we go over to Dave, Justin Payne gives us $4.99, and I didn't see a question there. Dave, if you see something. I was
looking to see if you put another one in.
If it's just a tip, we appreciate the tip. Thank you very much, Justin.
No, but his avatar, you saw it, right?
Yep, I wasn't hired for my disposition, Mr.
It was the Greg Lloyd t-shirt. I want that shirt.
Steve O gives us $5. Hey guys, love the podcast. What's your opinion on Dwayne Haskins signing? I like the move. Steve O, go check out the beginning of the show. We spent about the first, I'd say 15 minutes or so. I think we all said it's a low risk, potentially high reward move. There's not a lot of risk involved, but check that out. We go in depth on that. Thank you for the tip and thank you for the kind words. Dave, bold prediction time. What is your bold prediction?
No, it needs to actually be a bold prediction, unlike whatever Bryan just threw out there. I'm not really sure. The Steelers have 19 free agents. They're going to sign one of them. Okay, no, sorry.
Man.
Okay. This one's not going to be all that bold either. You ready? The Steelers will draft at least 3 offensive linemen in the
okay. I like that. Any specific positions? You looking for position versatility? Yeah, so you're talking about center, guard, and tackle?
Because it might be somebody that is like center guard eligible. It all depends on how it falls out and everything. It could be one person that could play both interior spots and 2 tackles. It could be a center, a guard, and a tackle. It's going to be something in there. And I'll even go as far as to say 2 of them will be in their first 4 picks.
Oh, very good. There you go. My bold prediction is I'm going to tie this in with what Dave said. It's going to center around the NFL draft, and this is going to definitely get us going on a tangent.
I know. I'm ready for this.
And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make a very bold move, and I think they're going to trade up in the first round and draft a quarterback in the 2021 draft. I'll even give you a name. If this guy gets to pick 10, I'm all about the Steelers doing like even a Minka Fitzpatrick type trade to get him, and that's Trey Lance. Trey Lance, quarterback. It's a Bison, North Dakota State. I'm telling you, that's my bold prediction. I would love to have that guy. He's not ready right now. He's really young. But I tell you what, he's got the athleticism that you want to see. He would usher in a new style of Steelers offense when Ben Roethlisberger's done. Okay, so Dave and I got into a discussion. A debate, we'll put it that way, on our Slack channel the other day. And I was telling him about, I was going to do, I think it was my podcast on Wednesday. I was doing my For Let's Ride. And Dave's like, that's stupid.
I didn't say stupid.
You're an idiot. He was calling me all these names and stuff. I was very demoralized. But still,
Jeff was crying. He was upset. He called me up crying. He's like, man, I know I usually I text you, but Dave hurt my feelings.
That's what I do. I'm the crusher of soul.
So anyways, my whole thought process around this is that I don't think the Steelers want or need someone to come in and play right away. Let's follow the Patrick Mahomes, the Aaron Rodgers method. More so Mahomes, he only waited 1 year. Rodgers had to wait longer behind Brett Favre. The Packers did this with Jordan Love last year. I don't think there's a problem with taking a quarterback if you think there's value there, even if you know they're not going to play immediately. Now, Dave said, and I'll give him a chance to rebut. You will.
Let me say what I'm going to say.
Go ahead and say what you're saying.
Let me say what I said.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, you also forget something. There's another player that you need to put on that list that was drafted to sit for a year, and that is one Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger. It took 2 preseason. It took a preseason injury and a week 1 injury for him to be the starter as a rookie. That was not the plan.
Yeah, you're right.
We're good. But so that's why what I'm going to say, remembering what happened to one BTR, is why I like the plan that I laid out, and that is, does Ben Roethlisberger become the quarterback he became and is still with the Steelers today, this long, 2-time Super Bowl champion, 3 times to the game, blah, 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 all that stuff. if in his rookie year, he did not have the weight of the world thrust upon him because the Steelers had a great defense and a great running game. When you bring in a young quarterback and you have that established, that is going to give them a better chance to succeed, even if the plan is to sit them for a year, because sometimes, you know what, the plan wasn't for Duck Hodges to start games in 2019, and that's what friggin' happened. So my thing is don't get the cart before the horse. The Steelers, take this time, take this draft, everything else. You've got the defense. Invest in improving the running game. Some people feel that means taking a running back in the first round. That's not the way I'm leaning. It's not that I'm saying if the right guy isn't there, I'm opposed to it. But if I had to pick right now, I'm going more in building the offensive line. You need to build this offensive line. You need to get it younger and ready. So then you don't want to take what would be a great quarterback and have it not be the best situation for them if you have the time to take one more year to build your team to be that.
I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree with you, but you said if a quarterback doesn't have the weight of the world on their shoulders, the best thing for them, running game, defense. So he wouldn't have let's say it's Trey Lance, because that's who I said. He wouldn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders because he knows he's not going to start. Roethlisberger's the starter. That's fact. Okay. He knows that it
goes down and Mason goes down and
then that's a different story. They have the defense. I think even if Bud Dupree's gone, even if they lose Hilton or Sutton, I still think their defense is going to be really, really good next season.
Adding a little bit to it.
Absolutely. Yes. And I also think the Steelers have proven on multiple occasions with multiple players that they are capable of finding good, quality offensive linemen in the middle to late, sometimes the undrafted category. Matt Filer, Ramon Foster, undrafted. You think about Kevin Dotson. He was not a day one. He was a day 3 pick, wasn't he? Wasn't he 4th round?
Yeah, 4B. He was after McFarland.
And he was by most people's standards.
He was before McFarland, because we came on to talk about Dotson, and then the McFarland. No, maybe I'm wrong. They were both.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that's a 4th round pick that most people would argue was the best offensive lineman they had by the end of the season as a rookie. So the Steelers have an eye for these offensive linemen. I feel like if you did have to take draft capital and you had to move up and you get your quarterback for the future and you are 100%, the offensive coordinator you have is creative, can work with this young kid, can really get him ready, then when Ben's done after 2021, assuming he stays healthy and he says, I'm done, in 2022, you're ready to hit the ground running. You're avoiding the Bubby Brister eras, the Mike Tomczak eras, the Neil O'Donnell, be quiet, Bryan, the Neil O'Donnell eras, the Cordell Stewart eras, the Tommy Maddox eras. You're avoiding all of that. I think they have to look for the future of the quarterback position. Now, Bryan, you're not a part of this debate. You're the judge. Now you have to say not who wins and loses, but what do you think is the right approach in this debate?
First of all, I'm going to shock you guys with this statement. Not only did I listen to Jeff's podcast on Wednesday morning, Let's Ride, I listened to the Stat Geek and the Rebuttal Show. I listened to both of them.
Check his temperature. Someone check his temperature.
So, and not only did I do that, I listened to the Scope Bros, and I went back and listened to your shows from last week as well. So I'm catching up, and I'm listening to stuff. And if I had to vote here, my first inclination is, bear with me on this, my first inclination that Dave is right that we should have offensive linemen in there. But when Jeff jumps in and talks about the Dotson deal, and I start looking at guys that you potentially are going to have back next year, and that includes Zach Banner because he's a possible cheap signing. You've got Zach, you've got Chooks, Filer's probably going to be gone. You're probably going to keep DeCastro. I mean, he's still signed. You might even keep Pouncey for one more year. So you have a good bit of your offensive line back, even if Villanueva goes. And with Dotson there, you do have a serviceable offensive line. You can bring offensive linemen in. If your plan was And we go back to the scapegoat. If the scapegoat was the fact that the offensive coordinator, the running game, and the protection wasn't working, and you get that fixed, this team is further along than you would think. The big gap will be when Ben is finally gone, and really, that window is so close to being shut right now. You want another bold statement? Ben Roethlisberger's last year will be 2021. He's not coming back after that. That's not that bold because a lot of people think it, but so Jeff's plan is the one plan that I'm going with here. So Dave, I love everything you're saying, and you're right on everything you're saying. But for what I want to see, I don't want them to, I don't like waiting until you need a guy.
Well, here's the thing, and now I get to tell you how you're wrong because the live chat's bringing this up too.
Okay, well, let me one more thing though, because when you wait for a guy, then you make desperate picks. We talk about how great that 2004 draft was quarterback. The one team that wanted a quarterback, but they were waiting too long at number 24. Who did the Buffalo Bills pick? They picked their quarterback of the future too, JP Loserman.
Tulane.
Yeah, I don't even know where the guy was from.
Tulane. He came out of Tulane.
Yeah, Tulane, and he was picked too late. No. But here's the thing: you can't wait until someone's gone to say, "Oh, we need a backup plan for Ben. He's gone." You just don't do that. And for everybody in the live chat that thinks that Dwayne Haskins was brought in to be a successor and start, he's not going to start.
He does not change anything if the Steelers are one.
Yeah, he's not in the equation.
Now, are you ready?
Yeah.
What you came with your argument for Ben, and you don't want to wait till it's too late? You're doing that to the offensive line. Do you really want to not? Because if you're going to trade up to get that quarterback, you're going to lose draft capital this year and next year.
Hold on. What did the Steelers give up to move up to get Devin Bush? I literally can't remember.
They gave up their 2, and they gave up the next year's
3.
Yeah,
okay. But you don't really give up a 1. You just swapped.
Yeah, you swap your 1, you lose your 2, you give up the 3 next year. But that was to move up 10 spots. Now you're talking, if you want Trey Lance, I'm sorry, he's not going to be there at 12. He's not.
You would be surprised. You would be surprised. There's some people that say that
if he is, then that's great. But my problem is do you want to invest? First of all, you're having a number 1 pick that then doesn't help you this year. Then if you have to give up your number 2 pick, then let's say you give up your 1 or your 2 the next year. That's taking your capital of where even if you bring back Pouncey, is he going to be any more than a year? If you bring back the Castro, does he got any more than 2? You're going to have to also have an answer at multiple positions on the offensive line. That's why this is the year to take your draft capital. If anything, if you really like guys that are going to be available, trade back and get more. I'm not saying they should, but I'm just saying they could. And then if BTR is going to be here for 1 more year, then you go with that to build your line. And then you have someone that's ready that if you want to trade up, I don't want to trade up and get a guy that high that then you just aren't going to use this year. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad plan. I'm just saying.
Do you think the Chiefs were saying that with Patrick Mahomes when they traded up and they knew he wasn't going to play over Alex Smith? You think they're regretting that?
No, but also remember he was ready. He was ready to go if something happened to Alex Smith, and it didn't happen then. It happened the next year. Whenever,
right? No, yeah,
whenever that happened. So we're going to lose the super chat if I don't bring it up.
I have it here, Justin's. Yeah, I had it. I was saving it too. Well, $4.99. He finally gave. He didn't have to give us another tip. I'm pretty sure he could just put the question out there. But Alejandro Villanueva, just talking about the offensive line, gave up 2 sacks and had a total of 3 penalties all year long in 2020. I don't get the hate on him. He gave up 3 sacks in 2019. Yeah, there's a lot of people that think that Villanueva has seen better days and that he's basically done. The statistics maybe don't bear that out. I'm not saying that they bring back Villanueva, but at the same time, I don't know. What do you guys think about Big Al?
You know what? I don't really agree with all the hate on Big Al because I think he's still very serviceable. But I want to go back to the end of June when Dave, Michael Beck, and myself, we had Zach Banner on here. And Zach Banner kind of hinted that he backtracked a little bit, but he kind of hinted that Big Al's winding it down pretty soon. And he'd like to be in a spot with whoever wins that right tackle position, whether it was he or Chooks, then they would have an opportunity to move over to right tackle maybe next year if something happens when Big Al leaves. Big Al's 32. And because, he had that stint in the military, and there has been a lot of writing on the wall that he's not going to be signing another deal. So I know it's pure speculation, but he's probably not going, unless he wants to come back, and all signs right now are pointing that he's not going to. It just doesn't seem like it. I don't think there's hate on him from the organization. I think the organization still believes in him. I just think he's winding it down, and that's what I'm looking at. I just don't expect him to come back.
Now, some people might not like using the metric of PFF, but they at least quantify something with their scores. You don't have to agree with them. But according to PFF, Alejandro Villanueva was the highest rated offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers last season. People that said, oh, well, he's also usually has the hardest assignment as well, being the left tackle. Not only that, he had the third highest rank of any player on the offense for the Steelers. You guys have any idea what players would have been ranked higher on the Steelers offense, regardless of snap count?
Kevin Dotson?
No, it's not linemen. It's not linemen.
Not linemen. Okay.
Chase Claypool? Chase Claypool had the highest score of any offensive player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you're not going to guess the second one. Only 0.1 behind him was Mason Rudolph.
I was going to say Jimmy Washington.
No, it was Mason Rudolph. Had a pretty. I mean, he only had 79 offensive snaps, but still. So people that are all like Villanueva. The problem is, when you're dealing with age, we saw it so much with the Steelers this year, is you're like, well, what happened to the offense and why did everything fizzle? Yeah, I do believe that Randy Land did not have a plan. They did not stay ahead of the curve. But like Wes called it when it happened, I said, oh, no, they just got to roll with it. Them not having a bye and everything, these older guys wore down. You're talking about Ben. I mean, I want to see this from Jeffrey Benedict. I want to see a film that shows week 1, 2, 3 Ben versus week 15, 16 playoff Ben, and to see how physically different he looked because the wear and tear of a season, wearing him down, if there was one or not. But that's what happens when you're dealing with guys that are older playing in the league. So I don't know, just because age catches up to everyone eventually. Big Al was not as bad last year as what people made it out to be, but he is getting up there. So I do understand that the Steelers move on.
ESPN had him ranked pretty high on the top free agent list because he's just valuable left tackles. And if he still has a few years left, I don't think the Steelers should entertain bringing him back unless it's at a bargain basement deal, because this is one of those situations. Let him go early, not too late. Okay. Let's go on. Do you have trivia, Dave?
I do.
Let's do it. Let's do trivia next.
Okay. We'll do trivia next. Sorry,
I won that debate. I won that debate, by the way. Live chat said so.
Oh no. I mean, why? Because you not if you're listening to the live chat. That's where you need to put that poll out there. Because I mean, convincing Bryan. I mean, that's never mind.
Wow, Dave, you've heard me. You've cut me today.
You heard me the other day, Bryan. It's okay.
That's what we're doing.
Wow, there's some venom.
Here's the reason, just to sum it up, the reason that I like my argument better than your argument, Jeff, is because if you do your argument this year, you can't turn around and do the opposite next year, where the Steelers could do the offensive line this year and then the quarterback the next year, regardless of who they are. But because if you make that move for the quarterback, you're also hurting the following year doing as much with it. And that's why I'm like, do that first and that second. Order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and here's some trivia. All right. Very interesting, because the Steelers went out and signed a quarterback to a futures contract today. I was looking at some stuff with quarterbacks during the 2020 NFL season, and there were 31 quarterbacks who started 8 or more games in 2020. That means there was a team, and it's not that one team had one guy with 8 and another guy with 8. It didn't happen. There's just one team missing from the list. You guys know what team is missing?
That did not have a quarterback start for 8 games.
Quarterback start 8 or more games.
The Washington football team.
It was the Washington football team. That was kind of the setup there. My question is, how many quarterbacks do you think started all 16 games in 2020?
For Washington?
No. For what? The quarterback started. What? Seattle has 2 losses?
Seriously, I'm talking about it.
How many NFL quarterbacks this season started 16 games?
Oh, well, let's hear. Well, it's ready, Brian. We can start the list. Okay. So Tom Brady started all 16. I think Russell Wilson started all 16.
BTR?
No, he didn't play in week 17.
Oh, okay, yeah. Nuts.
Lamar did not. Baker Mayfield started all of them. Mr. Burrow did not. Stafford did not. Trubisky, no. Chicago, no.
Tannehill did, right?
Kirk Cousins started all 16, I believe. Not in New England, not in the Jets, not in Miami. Jacksonville, no. Indianapolis, Phillip Rivers started all the games. Okay. Dallas, no. Washington, we know not. New York, no.
You keep
Philly,
it track,
no.
I hope.
I have 5 so far.
Okay, so you are.
Did he count Tannehill? Because I think he started, right?
Yep, Tannehill's at 6. Mahomes did not play in week 17, so he doesn't count. Drew Lock, no. Derek Carr, yes, no, yeah, he did start every game. Derek Carr 7.
What about Baker?
Baker, I have him on the list. He please start every game.
He's going through the teams.
I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. Now, if you go to Herbert, no, because Tyrod Taylor. Well, no, Tyrod Taylor got hurt in pregame, didn't he? Or did he actually start that game in week 1, Brian?
He started week 1, yeah.
It was week 2 that.
Okay, he got like the punctured lung when he was getting, so he was not one. San Francisco, no. I already said Russell Wilson. Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray?
No, I don't believe
I think he
Kyler
did.
Murray did.
I think he did. I'm going to go with 8.
Did you get Josh Allen? I mean, if you
I did not get Josh Allen. That's 9. And we know the Rams, no, they did not. I know I'm missing someone. I have 9, Dave. Is that right?
So you're going with 9. Brian, you go take a shot in the dark?
I'm good. Hitching my wagon to Hartman.
Okay, the answer would be 13.
Dang, who did I miss?
Okay, I'll give you the list real quick. Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Phillip Rivers, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford.
Listen, Aaron Rodgers played in week 17?
Yes, he did.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay,
I thought you said Rodgers. I'm sorry.
Needed for the
Okay.
Matthew Stafford. I kept thinking he was going to miss. He was injured. He started them all.
That's another one I missed.
Deshaun Watson.
I missed him.
Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, and Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan.
But I have one more question.
Okay.
Out of those 13, there was one that played every offensive snap for their team.
I think, and that includes not coming off the field for like a gadget play and stuff like that. I'm going to go with Tom Brady.
I like that. I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers, though.
Okay. When they blew out Detroit, Tom Brady came out, I think, in the quarter. So you got to think of a team that was trying to fight in all their games. It was one Kirk Cousins.
Oh, there you go.
He's played every offensive snap, the only quarterback to do that in 2020.
Good stats. I like that. Like that trivia a lot. Let's get to this super chat here. Cree gives us $5. I have to agree with Dave. It's okay, Cree. You can be wrong. I love our guys, but Pouncey and DeCastro injury prone and Big Al's getting beat too much by fast pass rushers. There you go. Thank you, Cree, for the tip. We appreciate it. Brian, do you have a trivia?
Yes, I do. It's
right.
AFC Championship game weekend, and the Steelers have been in 16 AFC Championship games. They have won 8 of them, so they've got a 500 record in the AFC Championship. Now, let's look at wide receivers. They have 3 leading wide receivers. the top three in playoff games as far as catches, receiving yards, and touchdowns go. Who are the top three in that category? They're from different eras. So who would be the number one as far as touchdowns go?
So it's touchdowns and what others? Just touchdowns?
Touchdowns, catches, and yards is what I'm getting at. But who would be, let's just say, who are the top three statistical wide receivers in AFC Championship game history for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
For the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. I was about ready to say Seattle has 2 losses because I was looking up the spreads for the game.
I have those anyways. I'm going to go with Lynn Swan.
He is not in my top three.
Okay. Dave, go ahead. Your guess.
Then in the showed up in AFC. Let's go with Hines Ward.
Hines Ward is in there.
Okay.
He is in there with the most catches.
Okay.
But he does not have the most touchdowns. I believe he has 2. As far as touchdowns, the leader is 5.
AFC Championship.
Cowher got there more than anyone else. So, well, other than, Noel got to the Super Bowl bunch, but Cowher got there a bunch. I'm thinking, is it Cowher era?
Yes. They were both of these guys were drafted by Noel, though. That I'm looking for.
Cowher.
But now the touchdown, the
Louis
2 guys
Lips?
that I'm looking for. No, not Louis Lips.
Yancey, think Ben?
No, actually not.
I thought that might have been who was the touchdowns.
The touchdowns.
So that means it's not Stallworth because you said it was in the Cowher era.
No, I'm sorry. They were both. The touchdowns is Stallworth with 5.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now, the other person was drafted by Noel and played in the Cowher era. And this guy has what looks to be the most yardage in AFC Championship games.
Someone who went nutso in AFC Championship games.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Number 89.
Is that Mills?
Ernie Mills.
Oh.
Ernie Mills was money in the AFC Championship games.
Very good.
Oh, sorry. Mark Davis said Seattle has 2 wins. He's so lost. Okay. Sorry.
All right. Very good. Is that it?
Yeah.
That's my trivia question. Yeah.
There you go. It's a good one. Now, Lee puts $3.99 in the tip jar and says Trey Lance could be a steal in the 3rd or 4th if available. Are you talking about 3rd or 4th overall? I don't think there's any chance on God's green earth that he's getting out of the first round. So
we know how quarterbacks shoot up the board.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you'll hear the hype machine starting on some of these guys. It might be Trask. It might be some other ones that I've been diving into my quarterbacks now. I'm all about this Steelers taking a quarterback this year. All right, so let's finish it up with real quick some AFC and NFC championship game picks. I know that Bryan and I, because we picked the same winners, we predicted all the winners. We didn't get the spreads right, the over-unders right, but we got the winners. Dave, did you get the winners from last week, or did you pick an upset, or did you pick the Saints to win?
You guys didn't pick the winners.
No, I
picked the winners.
I picked Baltimore.
I didn't pick Baltimore.
No, you guys both picked Baltimore. I'm the one who went.
Okay.
I picked the Saints when you guys both picked Tampa.
Gotcha.
But I picked Buffalo when you guys both picked Baltimore.
All right. So here we have
the Browns to cover but not win, which is what happened.
Okay.
I went 3-1 on tally site with the staff.
All right. Just speaking of tally site, let's get to the NFC game is first at the Bryan Davis time of 3:05 p.m. Eastern time. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are getting 3 points on the road with an over-under set at 51. Guys, who's your pick? Bryan, go ahead.
Take the over. Green Bay Packers are in it to win it like Iserman. They could drink about 15 Heineken. So go with A-Rod. Go with the Pack.
Easy there, Kid Rock. All right, Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, the weather's supposed to be pretty cold, which will help them. But I was going – I'll tell you why after the next one. I'm going to go Green Bay.
I'm taking the under as well. I just don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to take Green Bay giving 3. I like them on the money line as well. I think it's going to be close, but I think Green Bay is just the better football team. They're more well-rounded. So we all have Green Bay going to the Super Bowl. Next, the Buffalo Bills at the Bryan Davis time of 6:40 p.m. Eastern time. Buffalo is getting 3 points. Kansas City at Arrowhead. The over-under set at 53.5. Brian, who you got?
All right, this is so hard because we really don't know the true fate of whether we're going to see number 15 Patrick Mahomes in there. I believe that if he plays, if he definitely plays, I really think it's Kansas City's year to go back. I really love the dynamic that Allen and Diggs have put in together. I think those two really, that's your offense. And the defense is believing. I really think in the end that it's going to be Kansas City. Now, if it's Chad Henne in there, I know this is kind of your Dave answer because he wants to wait around to see who's going to be starting. And so I'm falling in line with that because I don't really see Chad Henne having the magic. Look, the Browns were in that game at the end, but the only reason they were in that game is because 15 wasn't. So yeah. I'm going to say right now that I'm just going to go with Kansas City because I'm putting my money on the fact that Mahomes is going to find a way to play in this game. I think he's going to get through the concussion protocol. Don't know how bad it is, but I'm just going with my gut saying, yeah, he gets in there.
All right, Dave, who you got?
Well, first of all, I do want to say something else before I answer this question. And that is because I was one who's I said Kansas City was ripe for the picking because they went where they didn't play their quarterback in week 17 and they had a bye, yada, yada, yada. When does that actually work out in the one case where you're like, well, hey, at least we got our backup some experience in case he has to come in. And what do you know, out of anybody, Andy freaking Reid is the one that pulls that off, where it actually helped for his backup to play a full game in week 17. So it wasn't that much of a disaster, although that was a pretty bad interception.
Oh, it's brutal.
I am going to make the call that Patrick Mahomes starts and plays in this game. And I'm picking the Buffalo Bills. I don't matters if it's Mahomes or not. Lance Williams got a hold of me like 4 or 5 weeks before. No, it's probably 6 weeks before the end of the season. Said, "Who's your pick for the Super Bowl?" I said, "I like to see how teams are playing over their last 4 games." He's like, "That's a cop-out answer. Give me your teams." I'm like, "Okay." And I threw out 2 teams, one of which was the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going to go with it because I still think they've been playing all right, playing well. Their defense was surprisingly very good last weekend. Because I think that they were built for and had the right approach to handle the Ravens, and their offense did enough to get it done. So I think this weekend they might have to flip the script a little bit because I'm going to take the over on this.
I'm thinking under again. There's just something about these games. Maybe it's being in the cold weather. Not that either team's going to be impacted. Like Tom Brady's used to playing in cold weather. My gosh, he played in New England his whole career. Buffalo, that's not going to be a big deal for them going to Arrowhead if it's inclement weather there. I just think I watched that game against Baltimore. Buffalo just did not impress at all. I mean, I just thought it was awful. Everyone talks about that offense. I don't care if it was windy in Buffalo. It just, I just don't feel like Josh Allen is a big game quarterback just yet. If Patrick Mahomes plays, the Chiefs win, they cover, and they're going on to the Super Bowl. If he doesn't play, no dice, then Buffalo wins. But if I'm going to assume that Patrick Mahomes is playing, therefore I have a Green Bay, Kansas City. But let me say this. I think the NFL is happy regardless. And when you think about all the possibilities it could be in the Super Bowl this year, where would you complain? What would you complain about? Tom Brady getting in? Buffalo hasn't been in since the 90s. Kansas City with the golden boy and Patrick Mahomes now. Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, a classic franchise. They have to be so excited for these 4 teams to be vying for it. We'll see how it shakes out. What are you shaking your head about, Dave?
Because who's the only person who didn't give a Dave answer? Was Dave. well, if he plays or if he
You're
doesn't.
talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, Dave. My gosh. Like, if you're good, if there's
I'm
ever a
giving
time.
you a hard time because I avoided the Dave answer. And
I mean, you have to.
But I don't blame you. If you're going to take Kansas City with Mahomes, I understand you saying that you're not taking him if he doesn't play. I'm saying I'm going to take the bet even with Mahomes because even if he plays, I think the biggest concern is his toe or whatever injury that he has more than the concussion. I think that's going to be more of an issue.
Renee gives us $5 and says, you guys are great. Listen to you all the time. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening and thanks for the tip. We appreciate it. All right, gentlemen, any final words? Bryan?
I'm actually going to be brief. Look, sky's not falling. This team is one of those teams that always figures it out. And I think there's enough on this team that, the worst case scenario, if they've got a bad year, I still think they're an 8-8 team next year. If they have a bad year, I'm not worried about this team. They're doing some things already that you don't really expect them to do. Keep the faith.
Dave, go ahead.
The sky is not falling because this, like Bryan says, like I always say, the numbers look bad. And last year I talked about if there's no new CBA, the Steelers are in trouble. And Bryan's like, they'll find a way. Well, they found a way with the new CBA, which was great. They're going to find a way. They're going to have some guys back. They're going to extend some guys. They're going to do the things they need to do. They're going to keep this team together in the places it needs to be kept together and redo it in places where it needs redone. It's not falling. It's the pieces just have to come together, and the time has not come for that to happen in this part of the offseason.
All right. I'll keep mine as shorter than everyone else. Trey Lance, 2021. Here we go. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Steelers preview. Steelers are going to draft a quarterback this year. Dave stinks. All right, Dave, why don't you send us out? All right. We'll see you all next week on another episode of Steelers Preview. Take it easy.